The meeting of the Township Council for Monday, July 23rd, 2018. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 5th, 2018, and was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Ooms.
Here.
Councilmember Kadish.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Allberger.
Here.
Council President Murphy.
Here. Please rise to salute the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We'll start off with our public comments. This is for current agenda items only. We do have 5 ordinances on for first introduction tonight, so if you have any comments on them, this would be the time. Please note that your comments are limited to 3 minutes and only on items on the agenda. May I have a motion to open the floor to public? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step up and make a comment?
Hello, I'm Bonnie Rubin, Highland Lakes, and I'd like to address the proposed ordinance 1826 regarding use of modifying the open space trust fund. So I prepared a little speech. Sussex County is home to exceptional natural resources such as rare butterflies, pristine streams, geological features, and habitats for a variety of rare plant and animal species. Under the New Jersey Open Space Recreation Plan, established by state officials around the year 2000, Sussex County's natural, cultural, recreational, and aesthetic values would be ensured and sustained. Sussex County voters supported the establishment of a dedicated tax for open space and farmland preservation on November 7, 2000. Vernon established its Open Space Trust Fund in 2001. Green Township and Vernon Township's local trust funds are for land acquisition purposes only. In 2016, my husband and I, intrigued by Harry Shortway's Greenway proposal for Vernon, attended his campaign event at the Vernon VFW Hall. Regarding his presentation, Harry assured that this project wouldn't utilize taxpayer money and would be solely funded with grants and monies furnished by proceeds from the town's Economic Development Commission. Now we come to tonight's proposed ordinance, 1826, which wants to modify Ordinance 0016 of the Township's Open Space Trust Fund for a number of various recreational expenditures. The proposal in this ordinance are particularly disturbing, as allowing 30% of the funds to be used the first day of each calendar year would completely deplete the trust fund in a little over 3 years. Secondly, it would allow this council to be the sole determinant of the money spent on projects it desires. This is not acceptable.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to step forward?
Sally Rinker, Vernon. I also would like to address Ordinance 18-26, a referendum to allow additional expenditures from the Open Space Trust Fund for public pathway development and maintenance. First, to use a referendum to change what was established by referendum is fundamentally wrong, in my opinion. We collected tax from our residents for open space and farmland preservation. Now to turn it into a recreational slush fund for pet projects is, in my opinion, a disrespect for the purpose and benefits of open space and farmland preservation. Secondly, there are a listing of reasons why this is a bad idea, and any change of use of a dedicated trust fund of $1 million requires very careful vetting and much discussion. Harry, as was just previously stated, your campaign platform included bike trails using no taxpayers' dollars. This proposal is a complete contradiction of your promise. Boardwalks, bridges, kiosks, road crossings and other improvements, related amenities, conservation, recreation improvements, gardens, disc golf, bike pump track. This lofty laundry list of projects and unknown future uses of the fund is a surefire way to deplete the entire fund in record time. The ordinance states 30% can be used for these purposes, which are, in my opinion, recreation items, of the first day of each calendar year. So I hope everyone understands what that really means. So we're going to be able to use 30% of $972,000 the first year, thus subtracting from each subsequent year. So $291,000 the first year can go towards this laundry list of items. As we subtract and move down the line, at the end of the fourth year, there'll be $233,000 left in the fund if used according to this the way the ordinance is written tonight. At the end of the fifth year, did I say that? At the end of the fifth year, $163,000 might be left, and that's only if no other purchases were made for open space or farmland preservation. So I think we need to be upfront with the split of 30-70, because to me it's a charade. It sounds good, but the results are bad. It leaves really no money for open space or farmland preservation. As for broken promises, we also need to consider. Economic Development Committee brought in no new revenue or amenities to offset use of this fund for recreation or trails. Likewise, the Greenway Committee, since I left, accomplished no new trails or grants for trails. The Recreation Director, who I recall was listing searching grants for bike pump tracks as her job tasks, I suppose that didn't happen either because it's now supposed to come out of our Open Space Trust Fund. So because the people you appointed to effect the Bike Trails Plan have not succeeded, you think you deserve the Open Space Fund. I don't agree with that. I think accomplishments need to be made by other ways, including keeping our promises, including potentially hiring a grant writer, which I've been asking for the past few years. Other towns are getting grants, but not us. Where was public discussion for the change of use of our trust fund? Where was council discussion for the change of the use of the trust fund? I've come to this podium on many occasions and for many issues. It's not a personal political game to win or lose. This is $1 million that can be squandered in less than 6 years. This ordinance is poorly written, unvetted, and I ask this council to not push this through in a hasty manner. This requires much discussion, and those of you who truly cherish open space and farmland preservation, don't let your legacy be an abandonment of that. I believe that's what this ordinance represents. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has a comment? Please.
Good evening. My name is Jessie Palladini, and I want to talk about the Open Space Trust Fund ordinance that showed up on tonight's agenda as well. Most of you sitting on this dais have no clue about what I'm going to say, as probably no one in the audience. But this is an exact repeat of 2010, when Harry Shortway was deputy mayor, and he brought this ordinance forth. And this room was packed from one end to the other, including along the walls and standing room only. And those people all opposed an ordinance that Mr. Shortway brought forth that was basically the exact same wording. And on that night in 2010, they basically ran him out of the meeting, as the meeting ended abruptly and all the council members walked out. thing tonight is that I'm just so sick and tired of this administration lying to taxpayers. I can present, and I will be doing that on Facebook, be it, over the next couple of weeks, time and time and time and time again, when Mayor Shortway and his wife Sherry Shortway said this will cost taxpayers nothing. It'll be zero cost to taxpayers to create these trails. There will be no maintenance costs, no costs whatsoever. Sorry. And yet, here we have an ordinance on tonight's agenda that proposes to use $1 million of our taxpayer open space funds for greenway trails, which were supposed to cost taxpayers nothing. Disc golf came back. The bottom line is that I would rather do a petition starting tomorrow to give that open space money back to the taxpayers, return it, put it back in the general budget, than I would to support it, to go for these trails that Mayor Shortway told us would cost taxpayers nothing. And again, I'm just really tired of this administration lying to us again and again and again. Now, my fear is that probably 3 of you on this end don't think about these things, don't read these things, don't even care about these things, and just rubber stamp it. But again, I'd rather do a petition to return that $1 million to taxpayers than to just take it now and use it for Mayor Shortway's trails when he told us time and again the trails would cost taxpayers nothing. Are we surprised? No. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to step forward with any comments? Please do. I know that there's new people here. I don't know if you're here because if any of the ordinances that are on, we have chicken ordinance. So I don't know if you want to speak about it. You could speak about it now.
I don't have like a speech.
That's okay.
I just wanted to say that I know that I'm in favor.
Can I please have your name?
Oh, Brianna Wagner. And I just wanted to say that I know that I'm in favor of the chicken and duck ordinance, obviously. And,
appropriate.
And I mean, almost my entire street signed letters in favor of it also, because I was actually in the process of trying to get a variance when I was diagnosed with cancer. So everyone's been very nice, and I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, but yeah, I think this ordinance would be fantastic. Chickens and ducks have many benefits. For me, they're very therapeutic. I lost my son 3 years ago, and I got ducks afterwards, and taking care of the ducks kept my mind off of other things, and it kept me motivated to keep going. They all have great personalities. They follow you around. You can talk to them. They do talk back. The eggs, obviously, are a benefit. There's really not that many negative things about the chickens. I mean, as long as they're kept clean and taken care of, then I don't think it should be an issue. So I hope you guys say yay.
Can I ask you a question? Can you repeat where you live?
Berry Lakes.
Berry Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else that have? Sure.
I'm Elizabeth Rockwell of Highland Lakes, and I support the chicken ordinance. I don't have much to say, but with all the things that they can help with ticks, and the New Jersey Department of Health has reported over 300 Lyme disease cases in Sussex County alone. So I support it, and I think it would be good for our health and something we can prevent.
You live in Highland Lakes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else? We also have the property maintenance ordinance. Sure, come on. Oh, they can't You have to come up so that they can't hear you.
As you can see, this is our chicken lover here. We're in Vernon, and we just wanted to come to support the chickens as well.
Okay. And what was your name?
Erica, Wine.
What was the last name?
Wine, W-I-N-E. You like the chickens?
And where do you live?
We live on 517, Vernon.
Okay. Are you in a lake community?
No, we're right by the Vernon schools.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing. Also, I do know in Dairy Lakes and the bylaws, there is nothing against chickens, having chickens.
Is there anyone else that would like to step forward and make a comment on anything on the agenda? May I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes of June 25th, the regular meeting, and the July 9th regular and executive minutes?
I want to make a comment before
Sure.
we...
Well, let's get the motion in first and the second.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I see this a lot occurring often, and now I want to bring it to everybody's attention. We have here as a public comment, and it was Sally Rinker commented on items not on the agenda. Why aren't we commenting on what the person did say? And I see we do that a lot in the minutes. And it should reflect what was said during that comment.
Well, minutes are not verbatim, so...
No, but we do it when you read everybody else's. And some people we drop things, and some people we do a full explanation. So this is nothing.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
That's not true.
This is nothing here. So I think it should be added what the content was. Merely Airbnb is a priority versus the soil fill ordinance. I looked at the tape, and that's what that message was. So we should convey the whole message, not try to manipulate things with semantics.
Anybody can get a copy of the CD or watch the meetings, but our minutes are not verbatim. So, roll call?
Yeah, but you should be reporting what was said, not what wasn't said.
Yeah. Roll call.
I mean, that's crazy.
Councilmember Ooms?
No.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Von Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt minutes.
Next, we have our consent agenda. Resolution 18183, authorizing the maintenance service contract with Gramco Business Communications in the amount not to exceed $1,045. This authorizes the contract for the courtroom audio recording equipment. Resolution 18184. This resolution expresses support for the creation of the Highlands Region Enterprise Zone. Resolution 18185. This authorizes the application for the body armor replacement grant. Resolution 18186. This approves the insertion of the safety grant funds into the budget. Resolution 18187, which was actually added this evening, this permits fireworks at Highland Lakes. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 18183 to 18187?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolutions 18183 through 18188.
Next, we have the introduction, the first reading of Ordinance 1823, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 484 of the Municipal Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Soil Fill Placement and amending Chapter 250 of the Code of the Municipal Code of the Township of Vernon to include soil fill permit fees and escrows. This ordinance shall amend the soil placement ordinance to include 500 cubic yards and the cumulative effects of a minor permit. May I have a motion to introduce 1823 with a public hearing on August 13th?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Wait. I'd like to
We'll have discussion after we have the motion and second.
All right.
Motion by Councilmember Kadish, second by Councilmember Van Tassel.
Discussion?
Okay.
Discussion?
Yes. Just a few things here. I want to first thank whoever did this to incorporate my suggestions for change. on this new version here that's going into the code?
Actually, it did come from one of the contractors at least a month
No,
or plus ago.
Brought to your attention that it was worded not properly, and also about having an aggregate. So, no.
Yes.
But anyway, oh, come on. I was
All
up
right.
here saying that's what I'd like, and there is some other things that need to be added. So thank you for that. We voted that we were going to have a work session and that Lauren was going to come with 3 dates.
Actually, we never voted. You did a motion, I did a second, and we never set a date, and we never voted.
So why would we have a code that's different than the ordinance? Because the ordinance still needs to be changed.
Why would we have what?
A code that's different than the ordinance. Because this code that you're going to put in our code does not match our ordinance, because we didn't make changes to the ordinance yet. So how could that be? And I'm just curious.
This is the change to it.
Pardon me?
It's in the code, isn't it already?
Yes.
It's in the code.
When you adopt the ordinances, it establishes the chapter, and then you're amending the chapter that you just established.
So that ordinance that we have with...
is already adopted.
That we voted.
It hasn't been put into the binder, but it is already posted on the website as part of the township code. Yes.
With these changes, but we never voted on the changes.
Because the changes are being adopted now. This is an
so
amendment.
this supersedes then the ordinance.
It only amends that one portion. So the two sections that are incorrect.
Okay, so when will we get dates to have a work session to make other corrections that I think need to be in here, and the public is asking? So when are we going to have dates? Or are we not going to ever look at this soil fill again?
What is it that you're
Let me
specifically
know.
looking to address?
I spoke about this already.
Right.
And you're blocking this work session.
No one's blocking a work session.
Are you hear this, reporters? They're blocking the work session.
Nobody is blocking.
They don't want to make changes to this. This is the third council meeting I'm trying to get a work session for this.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
No. Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce
So
ordinance
wrong.
1823 with a public hearing to be held on August 13, 2018.
Next, we have Ordinance 1824. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing the salary ordinance for non-union employees. This establishes a stipend for the assistant to the CFO. May I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 1824 with a public hearing on August 13th?
Motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt or introduce ordinance 1824 with a public hearing on August 13th.
Ordinance 1825, an ordinance amending Chapter 330 of the Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Land Development to permit fowl on certain properties. This permits chickens, hens, no roosters, ducks, and geese on certain properties subject to their homeowner association requirements, if any. May I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 1825 with a public hearing on September 10th?
Motion.
Wait, I got a
We have a
discussion.
first
I
and a
want to talk about
second.
it.
Excuse me?
I'd like to speak. I have a question
Okay,
about
we have
it.
a first and a second. Discussion?
In this ordinance, it says that according to the homeowner associations, and so when somebody comes to do a permit, do we have a list of who we're not going to give lists to? Permits to? Because do we know what lake associations and areas of Vernon that don't require, that will not allow chickens or
The
fowl?
associations will have
That's
to
their
notify.
responsibility.
That's their responsibility to notify the town or the homeowners.
So if somebody
Barry Lakes came forward.
Right, I
and said
understand that. So if somebody comes from another lake association where they're prohibited, will we still give out a permit?
Well, if they're not prohibited at this time, they'll get the permit. If their association changes their bylaws, then that's something that the association will have to deal with the homeowners, not the town.
Well, my concern is I don't want somebody to come and ask for a permit when they're not allowed to have this in their area.
Then they should visit their homeowner associations, because if they live in a homeowner association, they already realize that they have bylaws that they need to abide by.
Not always necessarily.
No, they do, because they pay dues.
Okay, then they do. All right.
No, they pay dues, so they're aware of bylaws.
Just a question.
So it would be good that if anybody applying for a
I
permit.
think it should be the other way around. They come here and then they're we should also know.
Well, we don't police their communities
Oh,
for
it's
that.
not policing. It's just
We don't
making
have the
sure you're not
employees.
giving somebody a permit and creating a.
But
whatever.
they'll know from their association whether or not they should be applying for it.
Could I just interject something? It may be helpful. In one case, we have a community such as Tall Timbers who has already spoken to the township and said that anybody who applies for any permits must seek their approval. They have already given us a document that has to have a seal on it. So before they can go to zoning or building, they have to bring that document showing that they've gotten their association approval before they will give anything out. If any of the other communities wish to do that, we would certainly honor that.
I think that's great, just so people don't come and get a permit and then arrive home and build something, and then now their association comes and says, oh, no, that's not permitted. At least this would head them off at the pass. That's all. Nothing, you know.
Well, Highland Lakes is aware of it, and they're one of the larger communities.
Okay, so everybody up there is aware of it.
Yeah. Roll call, or rather...
Wait a minute, I have a little bit
sure.
of something to say. I believe that we're making a big mistake allowing for geese under this permit. They're noisy, they're watchdogs, and any strangers that come, it's a huge racket that they cause. I don't think that this is going to be a very pleasant result.
I agree with that one.
Ducks, on the other hand, when you make cakes, the duck eggs are absolutely incredible as to how they change the cake. And of course, chickens, we've not allowed for no roosters.
Can we
but there have
remove
been
the
things
geese
that
now?
I suggested that haven't been included
Can we
in
remove the
this.
geese now?
And I think I have to underscore that D, the last sentence, is nothing in this ordinance is intended to subvert rules and regulations of any homeowners association or qualified private community. So that means that you have to go to your own associations and get either approval or ratification of those rules that allows for any of these things to take place. I also don't think that 15 is a good number. I think that's too large of a number. That's just my opinion. I think 6 and 8 are appropriate. But when you go to 15, you're creating a coop that may be too large to fit within the confines of a small lot. I also think that to apply for a permit, it's going to cost $50, and I think that's unreasonable.
Well, that's a zoning permit,
That's correct.
and that's what everyone pays for a zoning permit.
Yes.
Regardless of whatever, that's the zoning permit fee.
I understand.
So are you looking...
For the pleasure for keeping 6 chickens as a learning, educational, or private egg production is just out of kilter.
Well, these changes were actually brought to you by the zoning department. I don't
have to agree with them.
No, I didn't say you should. I'm just letting the public know that that's where some of these changes came from. But they were very adamant about no roosters because of the complaints that they had.
I haven't even complained about
Right.
that.
Are you looking to amend this?
Well, they left out the entire paragraph in which I dealt with preserved farms and federal and state lands, but that's the council's privilege.
Council, but a lot of the suggestions came from the Land Use Board. The Land Use Board actually met on this item and had a meeting on it and created this amendment several years ago. It was brought forward to the council, but for whatever reason was never placed on the agenda. So this ordinance was drafted based on the recommendations that Councilmember Kadish and Councilmember Allberger had come forward. It was referred back to the Land Use Board for them to review. They came forward with their suggestions of what they felt was appropriate, and that is what we have in front of you.
Would you like to remove geese? Or do you want, I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I wasn't under the understanding that we could change them.
Hasn't been introduced yet.
Okay. I hate I hate to suggest to table it until we can get some of these things ironed out.
I don't think that the people that want this ordinance want it tabled.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
We can change it,
you know,
right?
if you want to remove geese from it, if you want to remove the number of hens, that's fine. I do not, like I said, as far as you said you had no problem with the roosters, that was zoning's largest issue.
The ordinance can be amended before it's introduced. Once it's introduced and voted to be introduced and set for second reading, it can't be changed, but it hasn't been introduced yet, so it can be amended.
So would you like to make a motion to remove geese?
I personally think that the geese should be removed.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
I would also like to see
Somebody needs to make it first.
my paragraph concerning preserved farms, etc., to be reintroduced.
Then that could be looked at once this is put in place and amended, if that's. May I have a motion to amend?
We have a motion from Councilmember Kadish, seconded by Councilmember Ooms, to remove the reference to allowing geese as part of the definition of fowl.
I do want to
not be permitted within the township.
Roll call.
Well, within the permits of the limited acreage.
Yes. Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. May I now have a motion to adopt ordinance 18? Well, I have the
motion to introduce as amended.
As amended.
Ordinance 1825
on an acre.
Councilmember Allberger,
15 on an acre is a lot.
Yes.
Councilmember Kadish, will you renew the motion to introduce ordinance 1825 as amended?
Yes.
Roll call.
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1825 with the removal of the word geese, and with public hearing to be held on September 10th, 2018.
Next, we have ordinance 1826, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing a referendum to allow additional expenditures from the Open Space Trust Fund for public pathway development and maintenance. This creates a binding referendum to expand the use of the open space funds. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1826 with a public hearing on August 13th?
I'd like to open this for discussion, make a motion for discussion.
We'll make the motion to introduce, and then we'll have the discussion.
Yeah, but maybe we don't want to introduce it.
Well, then it can be. Well, then they can remove their motion.
Oh.
Is there a motion to introduce?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I feel this is $1 million trust fund. We're the Open Space Committee, and we've all been circumvented up here. This should have been a discussion item. We should have discussed what would be included on that ballot, discuss any recreational using that money for recreation. We've all been circumvented. We're the open space, and we've never been even asked to participate in this. I think this is a travesty here that even at all our council meetings, Mayor Shortwood says, you're the Open Space Committee, you tell me what to do. Well, apparently we're not, because no one asked us. So I believe you circumvented us. This money, we should have had a discussion on it. It's $1 million. I don't believe the question is explicit enough, and I think we were all circumvented, and we should have had all input on this. So I would like to make a motion to dismiss, table until we have a discussion.
Well, I have comments to make. First of all, I have comments. First of all, this money that's in this account has been in there for several years. It's
who are you talking to? Me, us? Who?
I'm just talking.
Okay.
Why I don't need to address you personally. I'm addressing the public. Yes, she was. She was. She was trying to make a motion, and I had discussion that I wanted to make. Yeah. So, anyhow, this money is in an open space fund that is specifically can only be used to purchase more open space, which we have open space. The question on the ballot is for the public, is for the voters to decide what to do with this money. Not for us to decide what to do with this money. It's for the public to decide. If you choose to vote in November and say, no, I do not want this money, my money that's sitting in the account that cannot be used for anything else, to be used for maintenance or not, That's your decision as a voter. If you're not registered, go out and vote.
I'm not saying, I want to say something. I'm not saying this shouldn't go to the ballot. I'm saying we were circumvented and that we should have had input on this.
You're having input right now.
With it going to the voters.
You're having input right now.
No, we needed to have a discussion on this. So you circumvented us again with another item here.
So anyhow,
this council has absolutely no input on anything that is going on in this town.
That's total.
That is the complete truth. And I am right on this.
And you know what? You're the only one.
Everything.
You're the only one that doesn't participate.
I tried to up here. Who's asking for work sessions? Who's working for discussions?
Okay, so we're going to continue. So we're going to continue here.
Each other on the
farmland preservation.
What we're going to do.
As far as
every time I want to have a discussion up here.
As far as farmland preservation goes,
wrong.
When you have property and you'd like to put it in farmland preservation, you may apply to the county. You may apply to the state. Is that not correct, Mr. Kadish? Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
For farmland preservation.
It's to buy an easement.
Right, but you can apply for money to the county and to the state.
That's correct.
Okay, so you do not
also apply to township.
You can, but in the same aspect, when many of the farms that are in preservation, they did not apply to the township because if the state and the county are offering money, why would we deplete our account? So you can deplete it. You can use the money for farmland, but the whole thing is to let the voters have the say. And obviously, some people just want to close the doors to everything.
No, that's not true. We should have had a discussion and came to a consensus of what should be included as these recreation items. We had no discussion on this. Somebody just came up with this, and here, vote on it.
Well,
and that's wrong. We are the open space. You circumvented us. I don't think that's right.
Roll call?
No.
Wait a minute. We're not through with the discussion yet.
Go ahead.
First of all, I think it is appropriate criticism that the way this is written, you could spend down the entire trust. I don't think the objective here is just to spend money that was reserved for open space trust fund over a period of years. That's not the point. It is taxpayer fund, but it was set up as a reserve to preserve open space. How this discussion got started a couple of years ago was that there's open space owned by the state and the township that needs some maintenance before it turns into like the intersection of 206 and 94, where it's completely filled with rubbish weeds, trees, where it used to be an old pasture land. We have Van Dockenberg's here that has not got a lease any longer, so now it's filling up with weeds. It wouldn't be a bad idea to spend $4,500 for a mower and have volunteers mow that property to keep the weeds down. Several years ago when that happened, we had thistles growing all the way up and down the valley. That's how this idea got started. I think that to relegate the use of this money, 30%, for just the recreational trails is kind of a mistake. One of the things that was mentioned before is that this is for the support of also cultural aspects of our township. That should be included. It could be used in terms of, in conjunction with the hotel tax to support some of our cultural assets in the township. It's my belief that at least if you're going to use 30%, do that of the $1 million, but then the rest of it should be for what the purpose was. I think this is incorrectly conceived, in my opinion. So I certainly think that it should come up to the ballot, but I think it should be a little broader in its concept.
You could have had a discussion. We could have had a discussion and came to a consensus. I agree with you, Dan. It would be very reasonable if you wanted to dedicate 30% to these recreation items and maintenance and leave the rest, the 70%, for what the taxpayer paid for. It was intended to make sure we had green space for the future and open space. To me, it's fraudulent. Now we're changing the use. people
It's not
that paid into
fraudulent.
it all those years, like myself and probably everybody else in here, thought they were paying into it for one reason, and now we're changing it. I think it would be fair to do the 30/70, and that's the way it remains, not keep on taking 30% out, and then in 3 years we have no money. And that's a very important trust fund.
Our objective here is to make Vernon a destination town, so that people come to this town to do certain activities. We have a large piece of mountain property that could become horse trails. It already is horse trails. We could buy an easement for that. There's no reason why these funds couldn't be used for that. The third thing is that this was originally set up for a open space committee to be formed, and it had very specific ideas as to who was going to be on that committee or what type of person would be on that committee. This council is not that committee. It's a replacement for that committee, and it's not performing the function that that committee was set up in the ballot.
You're right, Dan. You're right there, too. We should have always had an open space committee, and we never did. We're the substitute.
Are you making a recommendation to adjust it to have horse trails in here? Easement for horse paths?
Well, I think it should be, open space should be included, as well as cultural, under the list of things that it could be used for.
Now, how about the 70/30?
I also think that the 30% should be 30% of the monies available at the time this ordinance is passed.
30% total from the time that it's passed, what's in there?
Yes.
Wait, what is it? Please explain it again, Dan.
Up to 30%.
For the total. So 300,000 can come out for only recreation, and the 700 remains for open space? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that the use at the time that this is passed would be based on the amount of money in the account at 30%.
Spread over how many years?
Up to 30%.
Up to 30%, but spread over how many years?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you use 3% this year and 5% next year, but the total that could be used would be only 30%.
Well, that's what it is, though.
That's what it says now.
No, it doesn't say that. It says next year it's another 30%,
Well, that's the
and the year after that it's another 30%.
You can use up to 30%. It's not required that you use up to 30%. I think what they're asking to clarify is, do you want to put a 30% cap, that if it's $972,000, that they can only use like $300,000?
That's
for
correct.
what time period are you saying?
Yeah, what's the time period?
Because we do have to maintain the property as well.
No, I understand what Dan's saying. He's saying you have a 30% cap in total forever for recreation items.
That's correct.
And so if you use 3% one year, you only have 25%, 27 left.
And of course, the voters have to approve it.
Right.
They may
At
approve
a total,
approve
a total cap of 30%.
30% of what the fund is.
For the life of the fund.
Correct.
Right, and that's recreation. And what about for the, you said for farmland? Were you looking to add something else in there?
Preservation in that?
No, what's changed is not the acquisition, but the fact that you'd use it for maintenance of farmland. I mean, after all, part of open space is our river condition. We have so many trees in our rivers at this point. There's a point where we could use some of this money to help clear those trees. There may be liability problems with landowners, but that's an issue I think we should deal with.
So are you saying we should use this money, this 300 or 30% cap on the life of the trust, to maintain our open space and not put in disc hockey or whatever it is?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
It's disc golf.
It's disc golf, by the way, that many Vernon residents go to Warwick to participate in. So this is something.
But I'm just saying.
Right, but what you're doing is you're taking Vernon residents and you're sending them to Warwick.
I'm asking if that's what we're going to use that 30% cap for. Just maintaining our open space or using it to make this golf or whatever it's called.
It was all of the above.
Trailheads. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that open space should be included as the items as well as cultural
And recreational.
with recreational items. You want me to itemize them the way?
And did you want the horse path put in there? Did you want that specifically?
That was an example of how we could use the money for acquisition.
Right, but I just wanted to know if you wanted that specific in there.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Excuse me, I was just asking him a question.
Well, no, this was clarified.
Well, okay.
If it's on that in that ballot question, can it be used for anything other than?
It can be
Because
used.
it has to be specifically stated.
Well, if it's recreation, it would be passive. Is it passive recreation? Oh, there's no intent here to build fields.
No one's talking about ball fields.
So, Dan, what did you want to see? Up to 30% cap.
For open space. And recreation.
30% of the funds in the Open Space Trust Fund can be used for recreation items, cultural items.
Okay, maintenance of trails, bikeways, and open space.
You want that to come out of the recreation side?
Yes.
And then, so 70%, that other 70% cannot be used for maintenance of the farms that you requested. I thought you wanted the recreation to be one side, and then the other remaining 70% to be allowed to be used for maintenance.
No,
You didn't-
No, for open
Thing,
space.
okay? Basically, if you were to purchase an easement for horse trails, that would come out of acquisition.
Right,
That doesn't come out of this.
but then you can't maintain the easement. You want to use that for the recreation side money, which means that you're not going to have money for recreation. You're only going to be limiting it to maintenance.
No.
No.
Because maintenance will go on forever.
No. Well,
Well, then you'll have to go up
then it could be
careful then.
readdressed at a later date.
What?
I said then that could be addressed at another time if there ends up being a maintenance problem or something else down the road.
So let me make this clear then. It's 30%. So right off the bat, you'll take, say it's $1 million, you take out $300,000. That will be used for the life of the trust, for your maintenance, for your setup, for all these things. And then the remainder is for acquisition of open space. The way it was intended for back in 2000
Right.
when it was instituted. Okay, so we're all on the same page. See, this is what I talk about
Okay, so-
discussion, right? We're coming to a consensus, and this is the way the council should be operating.
And we're discussing. And we're
Oh, this was
discussing.
here
I don't
for
know what
vote
else
to
you'd
go
call it.
through.
So do you have those changes?
I do. I have the changes. I understand what Dan has said. Is there a motion to introduce as amended? Or is there a motion to amend first?
Yes. Right. What did you say, Lauren?
I was saying, is there a motion to amend?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, council member, motion to amend.
I didn't make the motion, so I can't make that motion. Right?
You did not make the motion.
The motion to
Make a
amend.
motion to amend. Please refrain from talking.
Well,
from
it's
the
up to
audience.
John and Mark.
No.
Haven't introduced the ordinance.
Hasn't
yet.
been introduced
First can
yet.
amend it, and then we can introduce it.
Yes, you may make the motion to amend.
I'll make the motion to amend
Second.
according to the discussion.
Roll call on the motion to amend.
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to amend ordinance 1825.
18.
And then we would need a motion to introduce as amended with a public hearing on August 13th.
Correct.
And that was, John and Mark made that motion.
Would you like to renew your motion?
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Allberger with a second by Councilmember Van Tassel to introduce as amended with a public hearing on August 13th. Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1826 as amended with a public hearing on August 13th.
Next, we have Ordinance 1820, an ordinance replacing Chapter 447 of the Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Property Maintenance. This establishes requirements for the property maintenance within the township. May I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 1820 with a public hearing on August 13th?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Two things. First, this wasn't posted. We voted probably around 2 years ago that the first reading of any ordinance should be posted on our website so the public can review it. So this wasn't posted until this afternoon. I don't think it's right that we have to vote on this until it's been posted 48 hours like we had voted on. So that's one thing. I'd like to table it till it's fully posted and the public is fully aware. And then the second thing, I'd like everybody to turn to, let's see, Article 4. Oh, thank you. 447-13, enforcement procedures. It says whenever the code enforcement officer determines that there is or has been a violation of any provision of this chapter, and this is the maintenance, then notice of the violation shall be given. The code enforcement officer may exercise appropriate discretion, resulting in an initial verbal warning or a notice that may be in writing and include a concise statement of the alleged violation. So the way I interpret this is that the zoning officer can give a violation or not give a violation. If she does give a violation in writing or notice, then B, C, and D will occur. But she has that option of not giving a violation. It should be shall, so everybody is treated the same. You can't have one person, okay, well, you can slide because it says may, and the next person, well, you know what, I think I'll give you a violation. So that's the way I read that.
But it is at the discretion of the zoning officer.
A law should not be at the discretion of somebody. Everybody has to abide by the same law. How can you say to one person, your house is peeling and I'm going to give you a violation, but the next person, your house is peeling but no violation? Well, how can you do that? It has to say shall. I disagree with it.
It's kind of like when you get pulled over for speeding.
On. No.
And you don't get a violation.
No.
And an hour later, the same police officer pulls you over.
Well,
the same
that
violation.
first one was supposed to give you a violation also because it's still illegal.
In the real world.
So you cannot do this. Is
there any discussion? Any other discussion?
It has to say may in there. I think it's a big mistake. You're going to cause a lot of problems and open us to, again, liability.
Is there any other discussion?
And that, again, I make a motion for it to be tabled because it wasn't posted as we had voted on, that they all be posted so the public is aware. I don't know if anybody will give me a second on that. I don't think so.
Roll call.
Councilmember Ooms?
No.
Councilmember Kadish?
No.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1820 with a public hearing to be held on August 13th.
Next, we have public comments limited to 3 minutes on any topic. May I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
Motion.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step up? Have any comments?
Good evening, Sally Rinker, Vernon. Regarding the soil fill placement that occurred in mid-May without a permit at number 1 Indian Trail, we in the neighborhood of this site have some very serious concerns that do require attention. The fact that other sites of illegal soil fills have notices of violations attached to them, and number 1 Indian Trail does not, causes the following issues. Without a notice of violation, the township has not caused a requirement for the homeowner to remedy the situation. Our code 330-162, enforcement, powers and duties of zoning officer states, if a violation is found to exist, the official shall take action as appears appropriate under the circumstances. Shall. Back to that same shall may
Thank
argument.
you.
The zoning officer took no action on this site of violation of our laws. Why was it appropriate to take no action on Indian Trail, but yet appropriate action was taken on Silver Spruce and Fieldstone, 2 other sites? The Township Engineer's report on number 1 Indian Trail recommends no permit can be issued unless certain criteria and actions are made or met. That report was dated June 20th, over 1 month ago. And I can tell you nothing has been done on the site to satisfy the requests of our engineer. So the soil was placed mid-May, and not one measure to control soil erosion or sediment control has been done. No stabilizing or removal of the 10 to 12 foot high 12-on-1 pitch of soil that comes to my neighbor's border, which also buried trees and has them in jeopardy as well. In my opinion, without the township's notice of violation, the homeowner doesn't have to do a thing. He has no permit, and he has no violation. So therefore, he's no different than any one of us right now. Therefore, he has no responsibility or connection to the township to oblige. Wouldn't that be correct, Mr. Zielinski? You need a notice of violation. You need a notice that you've done something wrong to affect an action. There's nothing.
It's not a question and answer.
Nothing. I'm making a comment. Stop interrupting me, please.
No, then finish your comment.
So we are asking for equitable enforcement of our laws because that's fair and correct. But moreover, the township is exposed to liability due to the random application of our laws, otherwise known as selective enforcement. The township is further exposing our neighborhood, the health and safety of our residents, because of poor judgment, or is it something else? Why? Why no connection to this site? Tell me, Mr. Zielinski, if your client had no violation notice, would he be obligated to perform? I do believe that answer would be no. The Herald posted an article on the soil fill issue, and embedded in the piece was a copy of a letter, I have it right here, from a defendant's lawyer to you, Mr. Zielinski, and in that letter, the defendant's attorney warns you, Mr. Zielinski, and I quote, I ask that you ensure these stop work orders were done in accordance with law, not arbitrarily targeting my client, as this too will result in a lawsuit. So why, Mr. Zielinski, do you not advise our zoning officer to avoid being arbitrary? Where is the enforcement for number 1 Indian Trail? We want the laws of Vernon to stand for us in High Ridge, too. We need attention to this issue, compliance, and we need that soil tested and removed if necessary. Mid-May to now, and not a thing has been done. Not a thing. The homeowner's just going about his business like nothing ever happened. If the mayor told the zoning officer to enforce the code, I believe she would do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to step up, please? Jesse, just a minute. Sure.
Greg White, High Ridge. About a month ago, I stood here asking that you have the material tested that was dumped when the truck overturned. There was a conversation between at least 2 or 3 officials indicating that a sample had been sent to the state DEP, and then some jocular notation that it was going to take who knows how long to get those results back. It seems clear from the township engineer's position that the material that fell on the street in Route 94 was not the same material that was analyzed by Sinai's Trucking, their lab, because there was no aggregate mentioned in the Sinai Trucking report as far as brick or block that our township engineer noted clearly was in the material. So it seems that the material that was tested by Sinai Trucking was not the same material that was being delivered. That should, I think, be cause for concern.
That's an excellent comment this gentleman just made. I hope you will look into that. I just want to...
please state your name.
Jesse Palladini, Sunset Ridge. I just want to say, with regard to Councilwoman Ooms' statement that you have circumvented the Open Space Committee by not discussing and asking that Open Space Committee to review that ordinance, she is 100% 100% correct. The municipal land use laws have very, very clear distinctions for what an open space committee is and what it's supposed to do. And the Open Space Committee absolutely, 100% brings forth the recommendation. And what you did tonight might even be illegal in circumventing that Open Space Committee. Open Space Committee is supposed to be the Environmental Commission unless you give it over to another committee, which you did, which is the Township Council. So you absolutely, positively circumvented them. For you to say, Councilwoman Murphy, that it is not for you to decide what to do with this money, it absolutely is.
It's for the public.
Up to you. No, it's not. When you put, oh, excuse me, so the public is the Open Space Committee? The whole public. Come on, Vernon. Give your suggestions. No, the Open Space Committee makes that decision and recommendation, and if you put it on referendum, then the public votes. But to say that it's not the responsibility of the Open Space Committee, which is this Township Council, is wrong and illegal based on your codes, based on MLUL. How outrageous that you have an Open Space Committee, but they never even looked at it, never discussed it, never made a recommendation, and you make a comment like that, okay? Secondly, I want to say you are also wrong to say that it is not at the discretion of the zoning officer to enforce the laws. You hire the zoning officer for one reason, and that is to enforce the laws that you create. This is not a judgment call. This is not maybe for this one, maybe not for that one. As Sally Rinker read the word shall, as another gentleman showed me your code on his phone, it is absolutely the zoning officer's responsibility to enforce the laws. And I just want to say one more thing. Lauren Kirkman, this is a first. So in the minutes, you didn't put anything.
Please address the council,
at the
not our clerk.
I'll address whoever
you
I
will
want
address
during
the council,
my time.
not
Public
the clerk.
hearing. You can't
you will
censor
not
me
address
on that.
our
I will
employees.
address, and as the clock ticks, you're taking away my time. Public comment period means I can address anybody or anything.
No, it does
I could
not.
come up here and sing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Just please.
Maybe next time I will.
Maybe
I have a
you
beautiful
can.
voice.
But please address the council.
So rather than comment, rather than put in the minutes what she did say, you put in there what she didn't say, that she didn't stick to whatever agenda item. You should be more concerned about accuracy in the minutes. Because I don't know if any of you actually read the minutes before you approve them, but let me tell you something. I read all the minutes, and the errors that are in the minutes are outrageous. I don't know who writes them, but I'll tell you what, when you approve minutes with attorneys' names wrong, guys, gals, start reading those minutes and know what the heck you're approving.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment, please?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Miranda, former resident of Vernon Township. And I happen to be in the neighborhood with my daughter, Ariana, who's a paleontologist at the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, because what is timeless in Vernon Township remains timeless today. I just come back from the Old City Road area of the Walker Refuge, and there's a pink bird with a spoonbill, and I haven't been drinking. A roseate spoonbill from Florida is in Vernon Township. Now, why do I say that it's timeless? Because for 30 years, and the 20 years plus I lived here, Vernon has been the destination for ecotourism nature in all the state of New Jersey. There's nothing like it, and I'll excuse Cape May. So when we consider a question on the ballot for open space, preservation of natural resources, creating greenways and trails, it is important to me to realize that in the 1990s and the early 2000s, I was a go-to person by the New Jersey Conservation Foundation to go to the counties. First was in Bergen County in 1998. I persuaded Pat Schuber, the county executive, to put a question on the ballot for open space preservation. It was approved by 66% of the people of Bergen County, and they raised $13 million that first year. Not 1 cent of that money went to maintenance, because I'm not dressed for disc golf. That's not what we do in Vernon. But the upshot is that what makes Vernon wonderful is that we have an opportunity to develop, maintain trails, and to create greenways. The Open Space Trust Fund that you have was developed over a decade ago primarily to buy open space and protect natural resources. It wasn't to fund maintenance. That's like me taking money out of my 401k and buying milk and cookies with it. Who does that? At the end of the day, it's a public investment made by the body politic in Vernon Township, and the goal then was to preserve open space. I'm not going to get into the dynamics of the last several years. I no longer live here. I watch it from a distance, and I chuckle. Nothing has changed. But Vernon has had many opportunities. In 1998, an international entity called the Glenwood Center, when Jim Kilby was mayor and Dan, you would participate in that process, developed a study that said that how can we get all the factions in Vernon to work together? They came up with a vision and a 10-point blueprint. Dust it off from your local library and reread it, because the fault lines remain the same, the factions remain the same, but the opportunity to work together is always that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The problem is we never seem to be closer to it with each successive year. I was a proponent for the Vernon Valley Greenway long before it became a political football in recent years. Mayor John Logan proposed the idea back in the late 1990s, early 2000. The late Gene Mulvihill ran with it, and he had me hire an external agent, I forget who they are now, Wander Associates, to do a greenway plan. And we developed that greenway plan. I gave it to that gentleman back there who's no longer sitting there, and said, here, use it, run with it, because why reinvent the wheel? Just do the work that Gene Mulvihill spent almost $30,000 on. That greenway plan had with it the cost of improvements. It had with it the cost of soft costs, and the best course to run it to minimize regulatory issues related to wetlands, streams, what have you. You didn't have to do more than just build it. And today it's like the ocean's going out with the waves. Look forward, look objectively, work with it. I would not use the money on maintenance, sir. It is not the way to go. There's a lot of money in Bergen County. There's a lot of money here. There's a lot of money in New Jersey. There's federal dollars, too. Work the system for your favor. I have a private entity called Eastern Conservation Advisors, and all I ever do is give advice. I have 30 years of experience doing this, but no advice is worth its salt if all we do is end up arguing and never agreeing on anything. So I came here to talk about a roseate spoon bill, and I'm going to go back to Eastern Pennsylvania. But at the end of the day, I'll leave you with this thought. When I was executive director of the Florida Trail Association in 2012, the reason I left Vernon is to move to Florida for that job, we conducted a study of the users of the 1,500-mile Florida National Scenic Trail. We hired the University of Florida to conduct the marketing survey, and they found that 92% of the users were not hikers. They were nature lovers. They wanted to see nature. They didn't want to go hiking. Your overflow traffic at the Appalachian Trail are not through hikers. They're people who come here to come see nature. They've discovered Vernon. That is your panacea. That is your pot of gold. How you manage it is really up to you. Warding them off with tickets because of where they park isn't a solution. Buy the land you need to build a parking lot for them. They will eat lunch at Smokies or at Milano's or wherever else they're going to plop their money down. Your taxpayers and your businesses will benefit from that. No politics included. 92% of people want to watch nature. Bird watchers outnumber golfers 2-to-1, and they earn 1/3 more than they do. And you don't see people building birding courses. And golf courses is a dying business. So turn the page, work together, look for real solutions. The answer's right in front of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that have any comments? Please.
Craig Rolando. I'm a local excavating contractor in Vernon, and I just have a few comments to make about your fill placement. And I understand the idea of the illegal dumping and everything like that, but I stand up here as an excavating contractor in town that I just can't have it, or I would like the council to take, our side a little bit, as not to make the cost onto us contractors. The more laws, the more permits, the more fees, the more ordinances you guys write starts to put more cost onto us. We just try to move dirt from one site to another. And, you know, a lot of times fill comes from this job site, that job site, this job site. We stockpile this dirt. And then eventually we hope that one day somebody calls us and says, hey, I need 10 loads in my yard. I want to fill in a low spot, and we fill it in. So, yeah, there was this 100 yards isn't a lot of fill. Certain areas maybe it is, but I don't know. Somehow I think you guys got to work that ordinance, you know, and I'm not sure how you do it or how you want to do it, but we can give you some more input. But it just needs to be reworked. I really feel it. I had a job where I was trying to move some dirt to a site here in town. We did not move the dirt. The dirt's still sitting in my yard. I had to get the dirt tested. $3,000 to test this dirt. The dirt came from, you know, we did a sewer line behind this town hall. We did stuff at CVS. You know, just gets piled up.
So it was local. It was local jobs that you were doing.
We've been moving dirt in the town and in the county for over 40 years. We've never had an issue, never had a problem. Nobody ever said anything. Never, you know. But now, you know, just for me to move dirt here in town, it became, you know, it's becoming a problem. It's becoming a cost problem, and it's, you know, we try to make money. We're really, you know, trying to make a few dollars here and there, and you know, the savings that we move dirt from and we save putting it in our yard and move it to a site. You know, we don't make a lot, but it adds. Everything adds up to, you know, hopefully to keep us growing here. And again, you know, I'm all for the illegal dumping. I don't think anybody should bring illegal stuff in here or dump it. There needs to be some sort of constraints on that. But all I got to say is you got to take in consideration us local contractors, that you can't put too many constraints on us that it really, you know, affects our bottom line. Because, you know, like I said, I got a job here. The job's not being done now. Two, in order for me to get it out of my yard now, it's costing me all this money. So now I got two things. I'm not making money moving the dirt, and then the second thing, I got a job that's stalled on top of the mountain that's just sitting there.
And just for the public's knowledge, what company?
I'm with Earth Tech Associates.
Earth Tech?
You know, we've been in town for over 40 years. I mean, you know, we've done many projects here for the town, for everybody else. And
you're not bringing dirt in from Queens?
No. So like I said, most of the dirt's just shifted around in local towns.
Right.
You know,
right.
Typically I don't want any dirt in my yard, but when push comes to shove, if I'm doing a job and I got to put the dirt somewhere and I can't find a place to dump it, it comes back to me. I mean, really, I don't want it, but in all hindsight, I move it to my yard, I put it in a pile, we grade it off, and then one day we hope we can either use it on another job. Oh, you know what? We need 200 yards on this job. We move it again from here. But now it's becoming a problem. And, you know, again, I'm all for the illegal dumping and everything like that. And, you know, I understand the ordinance and I understand what you're trying to do. And, you know, we're not against that. But all we say is got to just, you know, take the local contractors in consideration when you do rewrite, rework, re-talk about any of these ordinances of the dirt, you know.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
So in this ordinance, the onus is on the person receiving the dirt. So how does it cost you money?
Well, I guess the guy that was receiving the dirt, I was bringing it to him.
Okay.
So now it became, well, how do we know it's clean? I said, I don't know. I took it out here by the town hall. I took it out of here. I took it out. I don't know. Well, we don't really know that.
So is it more of
documentation from that? You know what I mean? There's nobody there testing the soil when I'm digging it out.
So it's more of a limitation that you can't deliver the soil you want because the homeowner has to do whatever it has to do.
Someone's got to pay for that testing. And you know, I have it with me. It was $3,200 to move 500 yards. $3,200. It's cheaper for the guy to go to the quarry and go buy it out of the quarry.
But it's dirt that you've compiled from local jobs that you
previous,
stockpiled.
You know, I mean, like 3 loads here, 2 loads there, 5 loads there.
And these are jobs, and what types of jobs are you doing that you're stockpiling?
I mean, we do road work. So
right.
So the thing is we go in and we dig a trench through the road and we pull all that dirt out because they want all clean, you know, quarry material back in the trench. We put all the material back in, you know, or just excess. We bring in stone, we bring in, you know, QP, we bring in stuff. And there's just excess fill.
So your customers are requesting testing? That's what you're saying.
Well, they said that you guys were requesting testing.
What he's saying is you're doing jobs, I guess, locally, and you stockpile it, so when somebody wants the dirt, his customers know that it needs to be tested, so they're asking him for documentation of where the dirt came from.
All right.
So he's saying, well,
That's what you're saying.
when they did the sewer here at the town hall, they excavated the dirt, he stockpiled it.
It's just, it's not, like I said, it's not me asking for it. They said, well, this is what we need. We need to know where it came from. We need to know it's certified clean fill, which the only way you can do that is have a testing lab come to the yard, test it, so then I can bring it to the site where the guy's going. So I guess eventually it all comes back to you guys. It all comes back to you. It goes in there, whoever filed the permit. Because it was over, I think I said it was about 400 yards or 500 yards. I don't remember exact numbers, but it was under the major.
Yeah.
But, we just asked that you just consider us just the guys that have been doing it right for all these years are now getting penalized. It's costing us money. That's the bottom line.
So if we had a work session, would you attend and bring us your input?
Yeah, I would.
Well, that's not what he's asking for, actually.
No, I'm
even though he's saying it's the
I'm
work
asking
session.
him the question.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're...
At a work session, would he come and give us his input?
What he's actually saying right now is that the 100 is too low of a number, and locally...
I don't care what. I'm asking
That's
him
right,
this
you don't
question.
care.
Would he come and talk about it? That's all
He's
I asked
talking
him.
about it right
I don't need
now.
an explanation.
Just like I said, just the shifting of the dirt around town.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're trying to, we're trying not to make it a major project here. We're just trying to move some dirt, without, everybody going crazy and asking me, 9,000 things. I'm just moving it from point A to point B. Sometimes there's a point C because it goes to my yard first and then it goes out.
Well,
I was hoping somehow we could develop a license for local contractors whose reputations and business take place just here in town. I don't know whether that can be done. We wrote into the ordinance a certification oath that if the oath turns out to be untrue, you're liable for a felony. And I don't know how else we can solve the problem of abuse and not punish the local landscapers who have been here for 40 years or 50 years. To me, it's
He's probably one of many, too.
To ruin an economic situation that's normal.
and by one of those ways was actually to have the dirt broker ordinance. So it's...
Yeah, I thought we were developing that.
Yes, they are.
But that's
they are developing that. They're
way in the future.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any comments?
I'm Brian Decker, local excavator in town, and we do primarily just septic systems in town. Been in business, like Craig, probably over 40 years in Vernon, and we'll do a septic system, have maybe 8-10 loads of dirt from one job, and we usually give it to homeowners that want to fill their driveway in, fill a yard, whatever. We don't even charge. We're just looking to get rid of the dirt. But now that's become a problem because I can't, it's 100 yards, and I guess now you guys want to maybe make it 50 yards. That's only 3 loads of dirt. So if I got to start trucking this dirt, say maybe all the way down to Hardiston to dump it at a sand pit, or get the dirt tested for $2,000, I mean, it's going to add $10,000 to somebody's septic, plus the time of doing it and waiting 2 weeks to get dirt tested. Like Craig said, we've been in business over 40 years and never had a problem with dumping dirt, giving dirt. I don't even charge for it. We give the dirt to people just to have a place to get rid of it, So I'm just hoping this whole ordinance can, because of one person in town creating this whole monster here, everybody else is now paying for it. Contractors and homeowners that used to get dirt for free or, now $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 added to a septic system because of this, or trucking the dirt so far away or whatever, It's just... Yeah. Like you said, we need to look at where the problem is coming from, not the local guys that have been doing this for 50 years in town. And there was never an issue before, And everything we get is from town or, right here. It's not being brought in from Patterson or Bronx or whatever else, It's the dirt's coming from Vernon and staying in Vernon. Same thing. I stockpile some in my yard, and then people needs it for a berm on a septic. I'm giving it back to them very cheap to get it out of my yard again. So, it's a win-win the way it is now, but if we start changing all, it's going to cost people a lot of money and a lot of time.
Mr. Zielinski, what was I thought we exempted
Thank you, Brian.
contractors and excavators. What was the exact verbiage in that?
But
I don't know the exact verbiage off the top of my head.
That's not what they're talking about, though, because after they do the septic, if he excavates for the septic and then he stockpiles the dirt, so then what happens is if you have a neighbor that says, oh, I
understand what he's saying, but what did we put in our ordinance that related to the excavators and the people that did work
doing
locally?
The septic is
Well, that said exempted septics.
Right.
And I'm hauling the dirt away now. Now I have 8-10 loads of dirt. Now that becomes fill that really people need to go get a permit now to accept that fill. You know, and now if you want to get that fill tested at $2,000 or $3,000, you know, it would be crazy that people wouldn't even want it. It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
So if we had a work session, would you come and give us your support and your, again, this is why we need to do a work session. So everybody can give us their comments.
We just got their comments, and actually what their comments...
Why wouldn't you anybody...
So we're in the middle of public session. So is there anyone else that would like to step up and make a comment? Seeing no one else, may I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
A first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have mayor's comments.
Thank you. I think one of the legal issues facing this council is what kind of discretion in the state of New Jersey does an enforcement officer have? We all understand with police powers, they do not have to enforce every motor vehicle violation unless it's enumerated, such as drunk driving. It's clear within juvenile laws, officers have discretion on how to handle a juvenile. They can give a station house adjustment, they can file a petition, they can counsel and release. So that's accepted. We also know police officers on the criminal side of things.
Please stop speaking.
In disorderly persons offenses, they have discretion.
You're interrupting the meeting.
There is no discretion with crimes or domestic violence. So I then look to case law involving zoning boards and the like. What do the New Jersey courts say? And I'll post the citations on social media later. But what I found is New Jersey courts have made it clear that local zoning boards must be allowed wide latitude in the exercise of delegated discretion. And thus, there can be no judicial declaration of invalidity in the absence of clear abuse of discretion by public agencies involved. Public bodies such as municipal zoning boards of adjustment are allowed wide latitude in exercising their delegated discretion because of their particular knowledge of local conditions. A trial court's role is generally to determine whether the zoning board's decision was arbitrary, capricious, or in the manifest abuse of its discretionary authority. Review of zoning decisions is ordinarily limited because the exercise of discretionary authority is based on its factual determination and will not be overturned unless arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable. Then I look to our codes, and I understand where it says shall use appropriate. Appropriate. The zoning officer will determine what's appropriate. Under 330-214 enforcement, we find the zoning officer, code enforcement officer, such other administrative officer, shall be responsible for the issuance of such permits, certificates, and authorizations upon the submission of such data, materials, plans, plats, and information as is authorized under this chapter and upon the express approval of the appropriate state, county, or township agencies. Under Article 2, in case land is used in violation of this chapter, any proper township authority or any interested party, in addition to any other remedies, may institute an appropriate action or proceedings to prevent such unlawful erection, construction, reconstruction, alteration, repair, conversion, maintenance, or use to restrain, correct, or abate such violation, to prevent the occupancy of said building, structure, or land, or to prevent any illegal act, conduct, business, or use in or about such premises. So that's what we have so far. Then when I took office, I instructed all our township department heads with that we are in the service industry. They are to work with the residents and to be problem solvers. They will exercise discretionary powers, and our goal is voluntary compliance to our laws. Written notices and complaints are to be administered within the enforcement officer's discretionary powers or when verbal notice is not sufficient. In the matter of Indian Trail, homeowners were advised verbally of the alleged violation based on the new soil fill ordinance.
They were requested to stop work, and they did. Since that time, they are abiding by the instructions of the township engineer and zoning officer to gain compliance so that a permit will be issued. The homeowners at Indian Trail will be obtaining core samples and environmental testing on the soil, and any brick and concrete samples found they will be tested this week. Machinery will be on the property to perform 8-foot core depth sampling under the guidance of our engineer. Absent showing that there was a lack of good faith or other offensive reason for the action or inaction of the zoning officer in her exercise of her discretionary powers, there is no grounds for this frivolous complaint alleged by Ms. Rinker and addressed by Councilman Ohms. On other matters, we welcome developers who desire to join our community, fulfill their promises, and meet their financial obligations. As the public is aware, Mountain Creek has filed bankruptcy. Vernon granted and allocated to Mountain Creek 160,000 gallons per day of wastewater allocation so that Mountain Creek could develop properties at the resort. Vernon also agreed to waive the requirement that Mountain Creek will pay connection fees to further incentivize Mountain Creek's development. Mountain Creek in turn promised 1,500 new condos and an indoor water park. Vernon and SCUMA issued bonds to finance the construction of a sewer system so that Mountain Creek could complete its promised development. Initially, Mountain Creek agreed to pay 100% of the debt service for the bonds that Vernon and SCUMA issued. In 2012, however, Mountain Creek asked Vernon to share the debt service for the bonds, and the former administration agreed. Entering into the 2012 Vernon Township Mountain Creek Resort Incorporated Sewer Funding Agreement, dated July 10, 2012. Pursuant to this agreement, Mountain Creek's financial obligation for the bond debt service was reduced from 100% to 63%. Vernon agreed to pay the remaining 37%. Mountain Creek was also responsible for the design, permitting, and construction costs required to upgrade the Sand Hill Road sewage pump station, estimated at approximately, in today's dollars, $2.1 million. The upgrade was to be completed by July 1st, 2013. Mountain Creek has refused to upgrade the pump station. Last week, Mountain Creek filed a motion to be relieved of all its financial obligations. This year, more than $918,000 is due for the bonds that Vernon and SCUMA issued for Mountain Creek's benefit. The total amount owed is more than $28 million. Mountain Creek does not want to pay their obligation. Instead, it wants the Vernon taxpayers to pay. They want us to foot this bill. It is clear that Mountain Creek never had any intention of building any of the promised development. It is also clear that Mountain Creek now wants a taxpayer bailout for its failed business. This administration, the township professionals, are committed to not letting this happen. It was a bad deal for Vernon, and we will protect the Vernon taxpayers. We also, in other subjects, received grant monies totaling $6,435. You saw that tonight from Statewide Insurance Fund to enhance our municipal complex security. Phase 2 of the water to Church Street is now complete. An ADA walkway leading to the new playground at Veterans Memorial Park is now complete. Much appreciation to APT and Earth Tech for their donations of time and material. Maintenance of the Sand Hill and Town Center trails and Veterans Memorial Park was undertaken by Sheriff Strada's SLAP team and residents. A shout out to the SLAP workers, Sheriff's Officer Pampanen, who worked alongside Vernon volunteers, including the GAC, EC, and MUA commissioners. Thanks to McAfee Hardware for donating the use of machinery to help us cut through the easement. Family Day Out was held at the PAL. Sponsored by the Center for Prevention. Kids and parents alike enjoyed the activities down there. A startup notice regarding the 2018 Sussex County Long Line Striping Maintenance Program has been issued. Weather permitting, work is scheduled to begin on or about today. I don't think it did. The county route segments in the striping queue can be found on the Division of Engineering's homepage at the Sussex County website, because there will be delays in traffic as they go one lane to the other. We were told earlier or late this morning, aerial mosquito larviciding will take place tomorrow to July 27th between 0500, 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. at night. Areas to be treated are uninhabited wetland areas. We will be holding our first Sidewalk Arts Festival July 28th, 9 a.m. at noon. It'll be at Mountain Creek, Maple Grange. It's BYOC, bring your own chalk. There will also be an art show at the pavilion down at Maple Grange. It's sponsored by our Township Recreation and Community Development, our Rec Committee, our Arts Committee, and the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have council comments. Councilmember Katie?
First, I'd like to make a motion to allow the ad for the CFO to terminate on August 11th.
I think doesn't it terminate now on August 11th?
Correct.
It terminates on August 11th.
I want to continue that.
You want to?
But they're giving us extra time, right? Is that
No,
including the extra?
I'm making a motion that we not do that.
It's up to you.
That you not extend it.
Yes.
So do we need to, if it's ending on the 11th, do we need to, we don't need to take
Well,
any
he's made a
action.
motion. Second.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying is if there's nothing needed and it ends on the 11th, do we have to?
You don't have to, but Dan's made a motion. It's entitled.
Do you want to make sure that goes? I'll second it then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call?
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Alberter?
Yes.
Council President Merchant?
Yes. Anything else?
I hope everybody attends the 28th. It should be an interesting new experience.
Is that it?
That's it.
Councilmember Van
No
Tassel?
comment.
No. Councilmember Ohms?
Yes. At our last meeting, again, Lauren said she would come back for 3 dates with the work session. That was said at the end of the meeting. So why no dates for work session?
I have dates in my hand.
Oh, great.
Excuse
okay.
me. But
It hasn't been addressed, so I refer that to the council.
okay.
Pardon me?
There was no vote for
All
the
right.
work session, so I defer to the council because I don't believe a work session has been established at this time.
Okay. I make a motion because I think at this last meeting that we had, we were going to have a work session. I don't know what happened with the vote part, but I make a motion that we have a work session for the soil fill replacement.
Yep.
To make changes for that.
we made changes. And actually, some of the testing items are going to be addressed in the dirt.
There are some other changes. We have people in the audience that feel that we should have a work session. They asked us to review the ordinance again.
They would
I
like
came
it.
up with some ideas that need to be added to it as well. You corrected the statement, the verbiage on it, and that was me bringing it to your attention.
If you say so.
Come on, you got all derogatory at me that night again.
Go ahead and pat
And then
yourself on
also
the back. That's
with
fine.
the aggregate, I brought that, and I have I said what needs to be changed in there.
I think at this...
Why don't you want to evaluate this? Why block it?
It's
Why?
not blocking. I'm not blocking it. At this point, we need to get the dirt broker ordinance in place.
That is going through the state of New Jersey. It has nothing to do with us. We could wait forever for that.
Is that the case?
Is that state of New Jersey or Township of Vernon dirt broker ordinance?
The mayor's asked us to prepare an ordinance for the township.
Right.
Here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm
And
not aware of that.
that's to regulate that's to regulate the brokers that are bringing soil into town from the areas that we have the issue with. It would not be affecting the local contractors because the last thing that they are asking for is more regulation for them because it's just being passed on to our homeowners. So this ordinance is to regulate somebody that is designated a dirt broker from bringing hundreds and hundreds of truckloads into the town.
I know he was talking about at the state level, so excuse me.
No.
However, we still need to address our soil fill or get rid of it, one or the other. Why not change and have a discussion? You know, they're talking about permit for 50 versus 100. I spoke about unsecured
Well, it's not
dirt.
50.
That's a danger.
It's not 50.
I know it's not 50,
Okay.
but they just mentioned it. So why can we not have a work session? Why?
The motion has died for a lack of a second.
It's a shame.
Do you have any other
comments? It's a shame that the people here cannot be protected.
Do you have any other comments?
No, I'm not done. We discussed this. You were all in favor of a work session.
And what happened is I had a discussion about the dirt broker ordinance.
But this is different than dirt broker. This is what goes on in individual properties.
Any other comments?
I'm sorry, residents, that they will not do something for you. Sorry.
No, I take offense to that. We had that meeting. We had discussion. We had the professionals here. We had contractors here. Everybody was happy.
But I said we have to evaluate it. We evaluated. We have no experience now with it.
I don't know why all of a sudden that meeting that everybody was so thrilled that we got something in place. Everybody was happy with. Needs a little tweaking. Don't turn it around to say that nothing got accomplished and everything's terrible.
Thank you.
Everybody was happy with that, and that's how you do it. You can't have the discussion here.
We have to evaluate our decisions, and we've realized there is some things wrong with the ordinance. Like I brought forward before. You change those. Why won't you listen to the rest and try to change the other stuff?
Because
part of us is evaluating. We have some experience with it now.
Right.
Let's look at it again.
Well,
that is the thing that you need to do.
The testing aspect of it is not in.
It's not. It doesn't even have to do with testing.
Councilmember Kadish, you had something else?
I just wanted to amend my statement that the art day is from 9 to 12, not the whole day.
Councilmember Van.
Whoever I am. Pochuck Valley Fire Department on July 29th is having a chicken barbecue, and they would appreciate any support that they get from the township and the residents. So it's sit down at 1 o'clock, takeout start at 12:30, $15 per person. Enjoy. That's it for me.
Last week, the county came up with our new tax rate. Our new tax rate is 2.693. I'll give you the breakdown. The county portion of it is 0.504. The county library is 0.034. The county open space, that has nothing to do with Vernon's open space, it's 0.003. Our school district is 1.503. The municipal portion is 0.649, which, like I said, gives you a total of 2.693. As we just discussed, there will be a dirt broker ordinance coming forward, and that will be to regulate what it really says, or dirt brokers, somebody coming into town and bringing dirt from out of area, I want to say possibly out of state, but just trucking, something that we've experienced, and trying to regulate those truckers, those drivers, or those brokers, because that seems to be the magnitude of the issue that's happening. It's not the local contractors. It would also be a good idea if our residents could really take note of our local contractors, because I'm told that they're being pulled over. People are chasing them down, taking their pictures. We had one person who was actually paving a driveway, a local contractor. And so what's happening is because they're doing their everyday business that, as you've heard, have been doing it for 40-plus years, generations, they're the ones that are actually getting the brunt of this. The one individual that I feel, in my opinion, is involved is the only person not abiding by the laws that we're trying to change. So there'll be more to come on that. And as I'm not sure if the mayor addressed this, but we're back in court on August 10th with that matter right now in Morris County.
That's correct.
Right. So we're back in court on that whole issue with that particular individual on August 10th. And I.
It's out of context. Has the stop order, is it still being enforced?
To my knowledge, that the stop work order is still being enforced by our police department. What's happened is the Sussex County Soil Conservation was the one that implemented the stop work order in 2014, for those of you that do not know. And up until we passed that ordinance, the soil ordinance in April, like I said, we passed that ordinance before some of these other locations even came into play. And once that happened, our judge, our municipal judge, then called our prosecutor and our police department and said, okay, now go ahead and actually police it and stop the trucks. But it was after we passed that, and it's not fair for, like I said, the council did act quickly in trying to implement that. The people that live over at Silver Spruce, many of them are not here today but they were the ones coming in and fighting. What's happened in some of the other neighborhoods, just a couple of the neighborhoods, those people didn't even know what was going on until they had a couple occurrences there. The zoning officer has been addressing those. She's had a couple individuals that had dirt brought to their home. She went and gave them a verbal stop work order, and the next day it was happening again. She went, and that's why you could find these homes, and they have stop work orders right in their lawn. So, but like I said, so that's one of those things. And as far as the mayor goes saying about Mountain Creek, I think it's important that our residents really be aware of the magnitude of what's happening with that, because we have all of these other issues that are day-to-day issues that are occurring. But that Mountain Creek issue is huge. And, you know, to think, I mean, obviously we're not working on one individual item. There's a magnitude of items that the administration is addressing with the council. So yes, we do talk outside of the meetings because we have to. You know, it's not, you know, most of us, you know, are around town during the day. So we have that advantage to be able to stop and to call. But we're always, you know, vigilant as far as, like I said, addressing other issues, even the chicken ordinance. So other than that, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.